Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and it looks like potentially the next expansion of World of Warcraft, Midnight, the second expansion of the World Soul Saga, have had its roadmap completely leaked, as it looks like a brand new image floating around certain circles have made its way out into the public. No idea if it is an authentic map, but it does definitely look convincing. And there's definitely some details within this roadmap that make you think that maybe this could be the real deal, because whoever put it together definitely did the homework when it comes to some of the lore tie-ins and certain aspects working together. Now, when it comes to WoW, sometimes leaks for future content or expansions do happen, and some of those leaks do turn out to be real. And a lot of times, it is actually Blizzard themselves that is leaking all this information in a very sly way, usually to drum up hype for what is to come in the future. And when comparing this roadmap to previous roadmaps, it actually looks very, very close to what Blizzard has done. And looking at some of the detailed content this roadmap reveals could potentially have massive implications when it comes to the overarching story of the Midnight expansion. So for today's video, I want to take a closer look at this roadmap and go over all of its potential content patches in greater detail, and also comment whether I think it's likely or unlikely that this thing is a real deal. And I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. As always, if you want to see more War Within updates or potentially future expansion things like Midnight updates once we get more official info, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. One of the things that I noticed with the roadmap as we get into it, the art for Silvermoon looks amazing, and compared to the actual Silvermoon city, yeah, it is a little bit outdated, and you'll even see some random like blinking objects in the background and stuff. So I am hoping that Silvermoon will see some serious glow up in Midnight, very similar to what we saw for Stormwind, going from Classic into, I believe it was Cataclysm, where they revamped it completely. So hopefully they'll do something cool like this for Silvermoon as well, to make it a fully fledged city and a lot more updated, because it's a gorgeous place. It just is a little bit outdated texture-wise. Now, for the actual roadmap itself, it starts off with patch 11.2, and that is something that I noticed here off the bat with the roadmap, is a lot of these patch updates are named with specific titles, even some of the smaller updates like the 0.5 as well as the 0.7 updates. Normally when Blizz releases the roadmaps, they'll just have a number next to these things, but not quite a name of the patch. So this might be one of those things that may make it feel like, okay, maybe it's less believable, less realistic, less likely to be real of a roadmap, because Blizz doesn't normally name things for every single one of these smaller updates, unless it's like about to be coming up very, very soon. But so that is something to take a note of. But the patch 11.2 with the Midnight reveal would be the update of Heartsong with Rootlands patch, or at least I assumed what a lot of players assumed would be the Rootlands, which is one of those things that was data mined during the alpha and the beta of the War Within expansion, but instead it actually has a zone of Deep Grove. And I actually had to look up if anything has significance to the name Deep Grove, and we do have an item in game called Deep Grove Roots, which is an item that is used by herbalists to gain additional skill within the profession. Flavor text reads, these roots continue to grow even after a rose is plucked, not useful for any practical purpose, but rather intriguing to study. So these roots must come from a place called Deep Grove, which would make sense for us to go to a place called Deep Grove. The raid's name is Star's Fate, and Dungeon, Blackfin Barrow. None of them have any significance in lore that I could find, but it does all sound like it could potentially be part of this big Rootlands update. The Wildkin renown, however, I found quite interesting, and when looking up Wildkin, they're basically a serene version of Boomkin, but just like a creature that lives out in the nature. And these creatures are believed, quote-unquote, to have been created by Elune herself to protect some of her sacred places. The Rootlands itself does have some significance and some connections to Elune specifically, so it actually would be interesting to have Wildkin living in these Rootlands and being connected to the Rootlands through Elune in some way or another. Additionally, the map has open world challenges and Warband holiday updates and all that. After 11.2, there's the Midnight reveal, with 11.25 as a general night update with Kassagar exploration, Drive open worldwide, which I would be kind of surprised by. The early version of Drive right now on the PTR is a little finicky. I'll be very surprised if they were that ready to bring it to open world, since skywriting took a long time, or dragon riding took a long time to even bring outside of Dragon Isles, let alone allowing more mounts to utilize the skywriting system. So it'd be weird for them to do Drive that quickly, but maybe they're seeing a lot of positive feedback right now, and it's possible they could bring it about a little bit earlier. Also, they have feature of Midnight Alpha as part of the 11.25 update. 11-7 Defenders of Dawn with Legion Remix, which I'm incredibly excited for. I think it is something they've hinted at already so far, multiple times, if not spoiling outright. So a lot of players in the community are actually excited about this one specifically. Panda Heritage Armor, which I actually could see being a real thing because they have been adding heritage pieces and armor pieces for multiple different races. For Pandaren, it'll be the easiest since Alliance and Horde both have access to Pandaren, so technically you're hitting both factions with just one single race option, as well as Beta for Midnight. And some players would ask, would this be a little bit too fast of an alpha and the beta this quickly before the launch of the next expansion? But that is something to note here is they've actually started to work on Midnight parallel with War Within. So a good portion of Midnight, I imagine, would have already been worked on, and a lot of content would have probably have been created. In fact, the whole entire World Soul Saga started to get worked on kind of all at the same time. Midnight and War Within kind of worked on side by side based on previous interviews that I've seen, with them also starting to lay down some of the new ground and foundation for the third expansion of the World Soul Saga, being the Last Titan. So I think it's not impossible for us to be getting alpha and beta that early. Then we have on the map Midnight Pre-Patch with player housing, which is expected, something we've seen on the previous roadmaps as well, so that one makes all the sense in the world. They're featuring the launch of Midnight itself, with what the roadmap says: new story, Silverman home, 4 zones, 8 dungeons, so everything seems pretty standard when it comes to looking at the map and trying to figure out if it's valid or possibly real. I think the whole Midnight launch, at least the start of it, does seem all pretty realistic for a brand new expansion. New delve experience of Hollows, which reading that I actually found it quite interesting. I guess when it comes to delves, we are exploring caves and ruins, but also Hollows, I guess it just would be another way for us to explore underground areas, or not specifically underground like we are in War Within, would be in Silvermoon, in Quathalas, above surface. So I guess it would have different types of delves for us to explore. I think they would continue to evolve the system of delves in the future, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did add some kind of like a different type of delves, like Hollows, which may have specifically a different kind of like a challenge or a different kind of environment, maybe a different kind of objectives in general, while still sticking to the idea of what delves are. Exploring PvE content, doing a bit of puzzle solving, platforming, enemy fighting, boss fighting, and completing a variety of different objectives, but it's a huge portion of it is just exploration, and I could imagine them kind of evolving on that system going forward. Also, with Midnight launch, a lot I'm seeing down below is new hero talents. That one I feel like I could totally see be a real thing. We did see a bunch of new survey stuff come out when it comes to Blizz and new class that may hint at potentially more hero specs on the horizon and hero options in the future, with things like the Witch as well as Lay Weaver, and there's a bunch of other stuff that was data mined, and all of it looks really interesting. And some players have assumed maybe this is them trying to find a survey for a brand new class to add in the future, or maybe this is them trying to shop ideas of different hero specs to add to a variety of different classes, more playstyle options to have our classes further evolve and grow, as hero specs and hero talents in general are meant to be an evergreen system that continues to evolve in the next expansion and the one after. They are meant to stay. They're not like a temporary system like artifact weapons or Battle for Azeroth necklace or Covenants or Shadowlands. We're not meant to drop them. They're meant to continue and evolve and change as time goes on. With 11.05 on the roadmap, it says Order Hall updates, which made me take a bit of a double take. The only Order Halls we know of are class Order Halls from Legion. The Rogue Order Hall, Mage Order Hall, Pally, one for every single class in the game, minus the Evoker, but it would be interesting for them to find a way to reintegrate a piece of content that existed back in the day and find a way to bring it back into the fold. This is something that I've been focusing on recently, is trying to create more evergreen content in the game, and finding ways to take content that exists before and find a way for players to be able to re-experience it all over again. Whether it is through remix, where players got to re-experience Mists of Pandaria with a bunch of different rewards and challenges and such, or as they're trying to what looks like bring in some of the Battle for Azeroth features as something you can re-experience yet again in next few coming up updates for 11.1, like 0.5 and 0.7 updates. So it wouldn't be completely out of the blue for them to bring back Order Halls to some degree, or at least to some small functionality, but also to reignite the ability for players to go back to Order Halls, maybe be able to earn specific unique items for those Order Halls, like variations of artifact weapons just for cosmetic purposes, or just to re-experience the storyline, or just to make it something that players can utilize at all times, maybe for cosmetics and other rewards that they could pack it with. I mean, there's so much different class identity that was really unique back in Legion with class Order Halls, so it would be be interesting for them to bring something like that back in the future. But from there, we go to the patch 12.1, which, like I said before, they're titling a lot of these things in this map, with 12.1 being Reckoning. And it's, again, really weird to see that they're titling things. However, Reckoning does sound exciting, at least when it comes to the context of this roadmap. New zone, Isle of Quel Danas, raid, defense of the Sunwell, which seems very believable, with Midnight being a pretty big focus on the whole Light versus Void, and the Void trying to go after the Sunwell. Najari Renown, however, looks interesting. Najari itself doesn't really come up anything when it comes to like WoW Wiki, but Najatar and Najar anything really usually relates to the Naga. And Naga have been a fan favorite for a very, very long while, so it would be interesting to see how they will be able to incorporate Naga going forward if they did. Patch 12.1.5 is Winds of Penance. Like I said, it looks like they're naming a lot of these. With the Windrunner storyline, Naga as an allied race, and 22nd anniversary of World of Warcraft. If they were to add Naga as an allied race, which would be incredible as a feature, to drop it on an anniversary of World of Warcraft, the 22nd anniversary, I think if anything would be incredibly fitting. Like if they were to ever do that, dropping it on an anniversary update would be the best time to do so. From there, we also have smaller updates like patch 12.17, which is Light's Wrath, and then leads into patch 12.2, which seems incredibly ambitious, and there's a lot of cool stuff in this one specifically. Not only is it named Apocalypse, but the new zone and raid stuff sounds incredible. The new zone, Ruins of Nethreza, and I had to look up exactly what Nethreza is, but essentially it is the homeworld of the Nethrezim, otherwise known as the Dreadlords. Dreadlords have been a fan favorite bad guy, villain, demon throughout all of history of World of Warcraft, as they've guided the hand and history and certain forces through secretive measures and guile and betrayal. They've been masterminds that laid some of the best plans out there. It's how Arthas came to hold and wield the Frostmourne, and they've guided the storylines in so many little ways from the shadows. They're very, very secretive, but ever since Shadowlands, they did add some additional storyline to them, where Nethrezim are actually Ventiu that are heavily modified by Denathrius. And it puts into question, why would they need a homeworld of Nethreza, which is technically where all of them come from, if they'll also spawn in Shadowlands? So I feel like there's a little bit of lore that may need to be rewound or erased at some point in the future for this to make sense. But Nethreza, Ruins of Nethreza, is an interesting homeworld because it actually was destroyed by Illidan and the Illidari back in the day using the Seal of Argus to blow up the planet. But when they did blow it up, some of the planet did still survive, and potentially us exploring these future worlds in Midnight, kind of very similar to how when Legion went to Argus, personally to me, I think would be very, very exciting. After looking things up, the reason why I'm kind of excited about Nethreza as a potential zone, or the Ruins of Nethreza for us to explore, is because this is the place where Nethrezim took those secrets and were able to catalog them. There's a lot of information and codexes and arcana, and the entirety of the Legion's path of destruction, the actual Burning Crusade itself, it has records for all of those things. Records throughout history, records trapped somewhere within the Twisting Nether. And just the amount of knowledge you can imagine that the Nethrezim would have been able to collect over the period of time that they've been around. So some of the most biggest events in WoW. I think that would be really, really cool to find what information they potentially might have been able to find. Another thing that I also got excited about when doing a bit more research regarding the 11.0 or 12.2 update is the raid of Darkstorm. Now, I didn't walk into this knowing what Darkstorm was. I actually had to look it up. And Darkstorm apparently is a thing. What I found was Darkstorm by itself is some sort of a terrible magical force that can unmake and destroy the Azeroth itself, but also every living soul living on Azeroth. Darkstorm is just a mass that feeds on life. It also does these whispers, not quite demonic, but more like otherworldly whispers of just insanity that anybody near the Darkstorm hears. And as Darkstorm consumes things, it actually gets frenzied. It gets hungrier and hungrier the more it consumes, and those whispers, the maddening whispers, they become intense, and it continues to grow in intensity. It's almost like the embodiment of the void itself, created as this magical force that can be used as a weapon. So when you think about Nethreza, the Dreadlords, this Darkstorm, this mysterious but ever hungry force that kind of leads you towards the void, In the patch called 12.2 Apocalypse, I kind of think there's a lot of cool little threads that could be woven together to create a fairly exciting patch update and potentially a very cool raid. Outside of this, there's also a renown of Unseen. Look it up Unseen. It just found a bunch of ghosts that just exist out in Azeroth. Highly doubt that that's what they mean by Unseen as a renown track, likely just another force. Combined together with additional hollows, more holiday updates, and other features that could be expected out of a regular update. And finally, listing the Last Titan expansion reveal, which is something that we expect to see at some point in the future. But with that, that's going to be the entirety of this brand new leaked roadmap. I'm not even sure. It's going to be hard to tell whether this thing is real or whether it is fake, because it isn't uncommon for Blizzard to leak their own stuff on purpose, just very quietly, to see if they can gauge the excitement and the hype, or potentially even drum up hype before new stuff is on the horizon. It isn't uncommon for them to do that. They've done that a lot of times. So seeing this map pop up out of nowhere as we're going to be exploring future updates like 11.1, 11.2, then there's Midnight right afterwards, and as players, you know, when they initially revealed the whole housing update of Midnight, a lot of players got excited about it. It seems that the talk about it has quieted down a little, so I could see them potentially releasing this map just out into the ether, just to see if they can get the hype back up and running, because a lot of people are excited about the housing update and what Midnight potentially could be. There are parts of this roadmap that make me think that maybe this is real, because like the whole connection to the Deep Roots or the Rootlands and the Loon and the Wildkin, like whoever made this really thought through about all of these little connections, and it makes sense that all these things would be kind of combined together as part of this Rootlands update, quote unquote. Or like the whole Nethreza and the Darkstorm threads connections in the Midnight expansion of this Void versus Light, and unleashing this powerful Darkstorm and us trying to potentially do a raid where we're trying to destroy it or shut it down or contain it or something. A lot of things like that really get me excited, because whoever put this together, at parts, it feels like they definitely did their research. Like even the Naga as an allied race, which seems like out of left field, but technically Azshara is still alive. And there's even some hints in the Siren Isle that say that Azshara is around. The Darktide Naga that serve Azshara are still serving their queen, and they're all saying in those little cryptic texts that she is definitely making a return in the future. So Naga definitely will play some kind of a role in WoW. So whoever put it together, it feels like they did the research. However, it also could be fake, because every single patch update is titled, it is named, and that is not something Blizzard does regularly. There's a lot of cool ideas on here, but sometimes like when it's too awesome, potentially it just could be a lot of fan wishful thinking more than anything. So I'm wondering if this is the case here, if it's just a bunch of cool fan ideas all compiled together in one single image that's really well put together. It looks gorgeous, it looks great, it looks very well formatted to look very Blizz-like. So whoever did this did a really good job, but it's like maybe it's too good to be true at the same time. Who knows really? But from that point forth, I do want to pass it off to you guys in the comments section down below. Do you think that this roadmap is real or not? What parts of it makes you think that it's possibly real? Possibly it's Blizzard hinting or trying to release this, put this out in the public, in the ether right now, just to get the hype drummed up for the Midnight expansion. What parts of it do you think make it feel like it's real, like it's actually part of Blizzard's plan to put this out into the ether, just out in the open world, let players discover this thing all on their own, share it with one another, make videos in it like I am doing right here, just to get the hype drummed up for the Midnight expansion? Or what parts of it do you think make it so unreal, so unfathomably fake that it's just an easy giveaway? Which part do you think makes it an easy giveaway that this thing is definitely the fakest thing you've ever seen in the world? Let me know both of those thoughts in the comments down below. But as always though, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy this update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative or interesting, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community where we could continue the discussion regarding this potential roadmap if you want to with the community, or if you just want to get regular updates like patch 11.1 and anything new that comes up over on the PTR. Besides that, let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.